Part of the reason that I wanted to start a prayer channel is because prayer is so fundamental to having a relationship with God. And yet it's the thing that is so confusing for people or challenging for people. Today I went to church and we are starting a series on prayer. And so I had the opportunity to hear a few different sermons, a few different perspectives on prayer. Something finally clicked in my brain where I realized that ultimately the challenge with prayer is in our ability to give over our lives completely to God. So just follow me for a second. The challenge of prayer is that you have to trust that God will answer your prayer. The challenge with trusting that God will answer your prayer is that He may or may not answer in a way that you like. And the challenge with God answering a prayer in a way that may or may not be consistent with what it is that you want is that you have to trust that the answer is for your betterment. It's only for your good. You have to rely on God's perfect knowledge. And even though His knowledge is perfect, it's a challenge because it's much easier to rely on what you know, what you see, what you've experienced. We have to see or recognize that there's another perspective beyond our perspective. So you may be going through something that's really difficult. You may be going through a lot of pain. You might just be uncomfortable with where you are. And it's hard to recognize that that could be a part of a bigger plan. Because after all, everything that God does is for our good. So why should it make us uncomfortable? Why should it bring us pain? But one of the things that struck me today is the fact that we all play a very small role in God's ultimate plan. Now that doesn't necessarily make it easier to deal with discomfort or deal with pain or deal with whatever it is you may be going through. But what it does do is help you understand that your life is a part of something so much greater than any one of us could even imagine. And the challenge with that, the challenge of recognizing that your life is interconnected with everybody else's life on this planet, or the fact that your life is a small piece of a grand plan, is that it requires that you give your entire life to God. It requires that you give every area and every nook and cranny of every area to God to use in the way that He needs to. And that's just hard. I guess the good news is that it might be hard. We might not be able to do it all overnight, but that ultimately God is there to guide us through. So you give Him a little and build your faith and build your trust, and then you give Him a little more. If you don't know how to talk to Him, ask Him to help you talk to Him. Ask Him to give you the words. If you don't know what to do about something, ask Him to open your eyes. Ask Him to guide your heart. Ask Him to guide your mind. Ask Him to help you focus. Ask Him to close the doors that aren't going to work for you and only open the doors that will. That way there's a lot less work that you have to do in figuring out the right way to go. I think we think sometimes that prayer is formulaic. We ask, we should get an answer. We ask, we receive, we ask, we receive. It's just not that simple. And at least for me, putting together some of these challenges helps me understand that you can ask, but at the end of the day, it really just comes down to trust. It comes down to trusting that God is going to do for you what is best for you, even if it doesn't feel great or if it doesn't feel good. And that ultimately what He does with you is exactly the role you're supposed to play in His greater plan.